Today I'm going to go over solutions to the 3 exercises I gave you to do last week. We'll do this past Monday, all on arrays. So I've got a class here called arrays. I've noticed I've got a constructor here with nothing in it. This is technically not needed. I mean, you can leave a constructor out if you don't want it. But in general, you're going to want a constructor, so I just have a constructor here with, it doesn't do anything. There's nothing between the braces. It doesn't do any harm. All right. So there are a number of ways to do each of these problems. So you may have successfully done these another way. I'm just doing these all in a certain format. So here I've got the shift up method. Now notice that I made this method return an array of integers. And I'm passing in an array of integers. So what I do inside of here is I didn't specify for shift up that you had to do this, but as I said, there are multiple ways to do that. This is a way that I think you can all learn from. So I declare a local array. Sorry, I declare a local integer a equal to whatever's at the end position of the array, a sub length minus 1. So I'm storing that last position because then from the last position down to, as long as I is greater than 0 here in this loop, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say array sub I equals array sub I minus 1. So that's just taking, right, and shifting the elements over or up. And then finally I say array sub 0 equals to that, is equal to that A, which I pulled out at the beginning and stored that value at the 0 position, the value at the end position of the array, the last position, stored in A. Here I'm taking that and putting it at the 0 position as the problem specified. And then I'm returning array. Now, I just want to show you how I could test this, right? This is not the way I would recommend you doing it, but I'll just show it to you. So I can compile this to make a new arrays, and I can call shift up. Now I can just pass in here a very simple array with 4 elements, okay, using the braces on either side. So that's being sent in. Now here it's telling me that arrays 1 dot shift up when passed in 1, 2, 3, 4 returned the old arrow. So it returned a reference to an array, and there it is. Its length is 4, and it shifted everything up 1 and moved what was at the end to the beginning. So that's a perfectly valid way to test this, right? So now let's go and look at reverse arrays. Again, I'm using the same idea. Returning an integer array, I'm passing in an integer array. Okay. In this case, I'm actually declaring a new array inside of this method. So this is local to the method. I did specify that you had to do this for this reverse array. So it's called temp, and it's new. It's a new integer array of the length of the array that was passed in, array.length. So we've got now allocated a chunk of memory that's of the same length as the array that we're copying from array, right? Create a matching array in terms of size. Now I'm going to loop through and using array.length. I could have used actually temp.length since they're both the same size. And what I'm doing is I'm taking, my loop is going from I to array.length. And I am setting, well, it's going to array.length, mine, right? As long as I is less than array.length. I'm setting temp array length minus 1, right? Minus I, but I want the value in here to slowly decrease, right? To start at the end position of the array and slowly increase. Because I'm moving from the beginning of one array over to the end of the other array, and then, from the second position over to the second to last position, and so on. So the minus I will gradually decrease this, but I have to do the minus 1 because I'm starting at I want to start at the correct last position, right, which is array length minus 1, and then minus I. Okay? So that will shift everything over, or make a copy of everything in array over into temp, but in reverse order. And then I return temp. And again, I can use this one that I've already made and test this. And again, I'll pass in 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? That's the actual parameter that I'm sending in. And again, it says array1.reverse array with that passed in as the array returned this. And I can double click on it, and there it is, and it's reversed 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? That's actually, right, that's a different array than the original array that was passed in, because I made a copy. I made a new array within reverse array. All right, so finally, average. Average, most of you didn't have a problem with average, with one exception. You didn't declare the type as double, and you didn't declare the average variable as double. This means that it's going to do, if num is an int as well, it means you're going to do integer division instead of normal division, so you're not going to get any decimal values. And I think in this case it makes sense to get decimal values, so I declare average as a double, and I return a double. Therefore, I get an average. In this case, I just loop through the array, and I sum up all the values in the array into num, and then I say average equals average divided by array.length, and return average, right? And for those of you who, right, are interested, you could actually get away with just doing this, right? You don't have to have that temporary. We don't actually, to think of it, we don't even need average here. But if we don't, then we have to cast num. We'd have to make num a double. We did it this way. But here's the shortest way you can make this. Right? So yeah. So we just, no, that doesn't work. Sorry, what am I doing? Double num equals 0. There. All right. And so, and that will return, calculate the average and return it right there without having a local variable average. So, okay, cool. And again, I could test that by making a new one and calling average and passing in an array. 1, 2, 3, which obviously should return 2. And it did as a double, 2.0. Excellent. Okay. Now, so it's certainly possible to just work on a class like that. But what I'd like you to do is almost always, I'm not super insistent upon this, but I think it's a good idea that you use a tester class like this. And then let's look at this. Now, I just do public static void main here. You don't need to do the string args stuff if you don't want to. Why do I do this? It means that when I want to test, I don't need to make a new object of the array tester class. I just need to right-click and call the main method, and it will run all this code. So what do I do in here? I declare a little array and fill it. And I make a new object of arrays, my other class, so I can call the methods using dot notation. And I make a new temp array, or a variable, a reference a variable that can reference an array of integers called temp. All right. Then I do some outputs here. Now, this seems like a lot, but you can copy and paste, right? So setting things up this way doesn't really take a whole lot of time. All this stuff you can copy and paste. So I'm just saying, so first of all, what I'm doing is outputting the original array. Now I'm using a for each loop here, which is covered this week. And it works like this, right? I specify what the type is in the array, and I just declare a variable of I, and then I say the name of the array, in this case n, right? And now what happens is this loop will cause I to be equal to each value in n sequentially. So in the next line I can just output I with a space after it. And so that'll print the values across. When the loop is done, I do a println just to keep the cursor down one, right? So there I print out the array as it starts, and I have code for testing shifting up values. So I first do a system out println shifting values in array up by 1. Then I say temp equals a dot shift up sub n. So I pass n into shift up, and shift up, remember, returns an integer array, and I store a reference to that array in temp. And then I copy it out using a for each loop. Exactly the same as the one up above, except I'm using the array temp instead of n here. And that's that. And then I come down and code for testing average method, and I give some printlns, and then here I can call it right in the print statement. So a average, and I pass in this array n, and average returns that the average of this array, and that's done now in terms of the testing. And system out code 3, by the \n3 just forces a line return before it prints this, just to space the output out a bit. And now I say temp equals a, call the rev array method of my a object, and pass in that array n, and then reverse array returns an array, stores it in temp again. I'm reusing temp, but that's fine. So temp now references the array that was created in reverse array. And then I just use the for each loop again to output the values, and then a println at the end, which is not really needed. So I compile this. Now to do all that testing, which I did here by making the new arrays, right, and going and doing that and actually entering an array, here I can just do by calling main, and there it is, right? Testing methods of arrays. The original array values are that. Now our shifting values in array up by 1. That looks good, right? 34, 45, 12, 55, and the 23 wrapped around to the beginning. Averaging the values in the array n is 33.8. That looks right. Copy n and reverse the values, and what I've got here is the values reversed, right? It's actually this, because I modified n here, so it's reversing this, the contents here, because they were updated, and there it is reversed, 55, and so on. Okay? So I'm going to send this to you, and in the future, I think both more for your good than for mine, because I can test them either way. This is a really good approach to both, you write your solutions to the exercises I give you in a class, and then you create a tester class, which will make an object of your class and then call the methods of that object. Okay? So hope this is helpful. Thanks.